The owner's son thought he could fire me for insubordination because I refused to categorize his $40,000 lakehouse renovation as a business expense. He was laughing when security escorted me out of the building, but the laughter stopped 3 months later when federal agents used my exit interview notes as a map to raid his property. I remember the laughter distinctly. It wasn't a nervous chuckle. It wasn't a polite laugh to diffuse tension. It was a belly laugh. Resonant. The kind of laugh that comes from a man who has never, not once in his 34 years of life, heard the word no. Brad was standing in the doorway of his corner office. The glass walls were frosted, but the door was open. He held a styrofoam cup of coffee in one hand and his other hand was in the pocket of his tailored suit pants. He looked at me. Then he looked at the security guard, a nice older man named Earl who used to ask me about my vegetable garden every morning. "Make sure she doesn't take any pens, Earl," Brad said. Then he laughed. Earl looked at the floor. He was embarrassed. I was embarrassed for him. But mostly I was focused on the box in my hands. It contained a stapler I bought with my own money. Picture of my cat Miso. And a cactus that was slowly dying because the fluorescent lights in the finance department were soul-sucking. I walked past Brad. I didn't look at him. I didn't scream. I didn't make a scene. I focused on the feeling of the carpet under my heels. Industrial gray loops. The smell of burnt coffee from the break room. The hum of the server closet down the hall. "Good luck finding a reference, Selena," Brad called out as I reached the elevator. "I'll make sure everyone knows how difficult you were." The elevator doors closed. The silence was immediate. My heart was hammering against my ribs. A frantic bird-like rhythm. But my face. Stone. I learned that from my mother. You never let them see you bleed. Not when you're the help. And that's what I was to them. Not the senior expense analyst. Not the person who saved them 12% on vendor contracts last year. I was the help. The annoying help who asked too many questions. I walked out of the building and into the humid August air. The parking lot was full of luxury cars. Teslas. BMWs. And right in the front spot, Brad's G Wagon. The one the company paid for. The one listed on the asset sheet as a logistics support vehicle. I got into my 2014 Honda Civic. The AC took a minute to kick in. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, watching the heat waves radiate off the asphalt. I had rent due in 6 days. I had a student loan payment due in 10. My health insurance would expire at the end of the month. And I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. But here is the thing about Brad. He thought he was playing a game of power. He thought he was squashing a bug. He didn't realize that for the last 6 weeks, while he was picking out imported Italian tile for his home office, I had been printing. Every invoice. Every email thread. Every text message he sent me at 10 p.m. demanding I fix the allocation. He thought the story ended when I walked out the door. He was wrong. The story was just starting. And I had the receipts. Literally. To understand why this betrayal cut so deep, you have to understand the specific texture of the lie I was living in. The company, Vanguard Logistics, framed itself as a family. That was their favorite word. Family. We had family Fridays where they bought us lukewarm pizza. We had family town halls, where Brad's father, the CEO, would talk about shared sacrifice during lean quarters. 6 months ago they froze raises. Supply chain issues, the CEO said, looking somber in a suit that cost more than my car. We all have to tighten our belts. We're in this together. I believed it. I actually believed it. I cut our department's office supply budget by 40%. I negotiated harder with our software vendors. I worked late, unpaid, to audit the shipping routes. I tightened my belt until it bruised. Then came the invoice. It landed in my queue on a Tuesday morning. Tuesday, May 14th. I remember the date because it was the day after my birthday and I was treating myself to a latte. Vendor, Apex Strategic Solutions LLC. Amount, $41,250. Description, Q2 Management Consulting and Retainer. Coding, Professional Services Admin. Looked boring. It was designed to look boring. But I'm an auditor by trade and by nature. I notice patterns. Apex Strategic Solutions wasn't in our vendor master file. That happens sometimes with new contractors. But the font on the invoice looked off. It was a default Word template. Arial. No logo. I did what I always do. I checked the yin. It was registered 3 weeks ago. I checked the address. It wasn't an office park. It was a residential address in a suburb 40 minutes away. I pulled up Google Maps. Street view. It was a small beige house with a trampoline in the front yard. Apex Strategic Solutions was operating out of a suburban split level. That was red flag number 1. Red flag number 2 came when I cross-referenced the address with the state licensing board. The homeowner was a man named Gary the Grout King Miller, licensed contractor, specializing in luxury pools and outdoor living spaces. I sat there, my latte getting cold. Consulting fees. $41,000. A pool contractor. And then I remembered Brad's Instagram story from the weekend. He'd posted a video of his backyard at the lake house. Dirt everywhere. Caption that said, "Big things coming. Summer 24 is gonna be lit." I felt a physical sickness in my stomach. Not anger. Not yet. It was nausea. The company was freezing raises. My coworker Sarah had been denied a $500 cost of living adjustment. She was a single mom. She cried in the break room. And here was Brad, the VP of operations, funneling 40 grand of company money into a hole in the ground at his lake house. I tried to give him an out. I really did. I convinced myself I was wrong. Maybe Gary the Grout King also did business consulting. Maybe he was a Renaissance man. I sent an email to Brad. Subject: Query regarding invoice number 001 Apex Strategic. Body: Hi Brad, I'm processing the Q2 consulting fees. I noticed this vendor is new. I just need a copy of their W-9 and the contract for the audit file. Also, the address pulls up a residential location. Just want to make sure we have the right details before I cut the check. It was polite. Professional. Standard procedure. He didn't reply by email. He showed up at my desk. He didn't shout. That would have been easier. He leaned. He put both hands on my desk, invading my space, smelling of expensive cedar cologne and aggression. "Selena," he said. Voice low. Smooth. "Why are you bottlenecking this?" "I'm not bottlenecking," I said. I kept my hands in my lap so he wouldn't see them shaking. "I just need the documentation. For the auditors." "I am the VP of operations," he said. "I approved the expense. That is the documentation." "That's not how IRS compliance works, Brad. If this is a consultant, I need a W-9. If it's over $10,000, I need a contract." He sighed. A long, dramatic exhale through his nose. He looked around the office to see if anyone was watching. "You're being obsessive," he said. "It's a strategic retainer. Confidential. Sensitive company strategy. I can't have you digging into sensitive matters just because you want to play detective. Cut the check." "I can't," I whispered. "It's my signature on the approval line. If this gets flagged." "If you don't cut the check by noon," he said, standing up straight, fixing his cufflinks, "don't bother coming back after lunch." He walked away. I cut the check. I felt dirty. I felt complicit. But I needed the job. That was the mistake. I showed him I could be bullied. But that night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan. I thought about Sarah crying in the break room. I thought about the "tighten your belts" speech. I made a decision. I wasn't going to be a thief. And I wasn't going to be a victim. The next day I started BCCing myself. I need to explain something about my background. It explains why they underestimated me. I grew up in a house where we reused aluminum foil. We washed it, dried it, and put it back in the drawer. If the milk went sour, my dad made pancakes. If the car broke down, we walked. I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I went to a state commuter college. I worked 2 jobs. One at a bakery, one data entry, to pay for my accounting degree. I graduated with 0 debt and a 4.0 GPA. I view numbers as truth. People lie. Brad lies. Marketing brochures lie. But a ledger? A ledger is a moral document. Debits on the left. Credits on the right. It has to balance. If it doesn't balance, something is wrong with the world. Brad saw me as a quiet mouse in a cardigan. He saw state school. He saw lives in an apartment complex. He didn't see the person who learned to spot a lie by looking at the grocery budget when she was 12. The firing happened 3 weeks after the check incident. I hadn't stopped asking questions. I had just gotten smarter about how I asked them. I stopped emailing Brad. I started emailing the other departments, clarifying allocations. Hey, just checking, did the marketing team use the Apex consultant for the rebrand? I see the charge here. No, marketing replied. Never heard of them. Hey, logistics, did you guys get a new G Wagon for the fleet? I need the VIN for insurance. We drive Sprinter vans, Selena. We don't have a G Wagon. I was building the map. And Brad found out. He called me into the conference room on a Friday at 3 p.m. The death slot. Sure was there. Linda. She looked miserable. She wouldn't meet my eyes. We're restructuring the finance department, Brad said. He was bored. He was scrolling on his phone under the table. I could see the reflection in the glass surface. Restructuring, I repeated. We need a more dynamic approach, Brad said. Your style is a bit rigid. A bit antiquated. We feel you're not a culture fit for the direction Vanguard is heading. Is this about the pool? I asked. The room stopped. The air left the room. Linda's head snapped up. Brad stopped scrolling. He slowly placed his phone face down. Excuse me, Brad said. The pool, I said. My voice was steady. Terrifyingly steady. The $41,000 to Apex Strategic Solutions, which is registered to a pool contractor. Is this because I asked for the contract? Brad smiled. It was a reptile smile. Dangerous. See, Linda? This is what I mean. Paranoid. Obsessive. Insubordinate. He turned to me. Selena, these are serious accusations. Defamatory, actually. I'd be very careful what you say next. Linda pushed a piece of paper across the table. This is a separation agreement, she said. Her voice was thin. We're offering 2 weeks of severance. In exchange, you sign this NDA and a release of claims. Standard stuff. 2 weeks. $800 after taxes. That wouldn't even cover my rent. I looked at the document. Clause 4. Employee agrees not to disparage the company, its officers, or its affiliates. Clause 7. Employee waives right to sue for wrongful termination. I'm not signing this, I said. Brad laughed. Then you get nothing. You walk out with nothing. And good luck getting a reference. I know everyone in this town, Selena. You'll be unhirable. I'm not signing, I said again. I stood up. Escort her out, Brad said to Linda. Call Earl. That brings us back to the laughter. The walk to the car. The heat. I drove home in silence. I walked into my apartment. I fed miso. I sat on my couch. And then the panic hit. It wasn't a mental panic. It was physical. My hands went numb. My vision tunneled. Unhirable. No reference. Rent due. I checked my bank account. $1,400. Enough for 1 month. Maybe 6 weeks if I ate rice and beans. After that. Eviction. I spiraled. I imagined losing my car. I imagined moving back in with my parents at 32. I imagined Brad telling his golf buddies about the crazy accountant he fired. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. But then I looked at my backpack. The one I'd brought home. I hadn't just taken my stapler. I had taken my personal notebook. The black moleskine. In that notebook I had written down dates. Invoice numbers. Amounts. But more importantly, I had the copies. When I was BCCing myself, I wasn't sending them to my work email. I was printing them to PDF. And emailing them to a Proton Mail account I created the night I found out about the pool. Safekeep2024@proton.me. I opened my laptop. I logged in. There they were. 52 emails. Full. Her. The retreat, in Aspen, that was just Brad and his frat brothers skiing. $12,000 on the corporate Amex. The client gifts, that were actually handbags shipped to his wife. I wasn't just an ex-employee. I was a walking, talking audit trail. But I knew I couldn't just sue him. He had lawyers on retainer. He had money. He could drag it out for years. I would be bankrupt before we ever got to discovery. I needed something bigger than a lawsuit. I needed a weapon he couldn't buy his way out of. I Googled one phrase. IRS Form 211. Application for Award for Original Information. The Whistleblower Program. If you report tax fraud, specifically using company funds for personal gain and deducting them as business expenses, the IRS doesn't just investigate. They pay you 15 to 30% of what they recover. I looked at the numbers in my spreadsheet. Brad hadn't just stolen $40,000. Over the last 3 years, by my estimation, he had funneled nearly $450,000 of company money into his lifestyle. Plus the tax evasion on the company side. Plus the payroll tax fraud on the consultants. We were talking about millions in penalties. I didn't cry anymore. I went to the kitchen. I made a pot of coffee. It was 4 p.m. on a Friday. I had work to do. The next 3 months were the hardest of my life. This is the part the movies skip. They show the montage of the hero typing furiously, then cut to the victory. They don't show the waiting. They don't show the silence. I filed the Form 211 on a Monday. I attached a 40-page dossier. I categorized it. Exhibit A, the lake house renovation. Exhibit B, the phantom vehicle. Exhibit C, the Aspen retreat. I uploaded the PDFs. I hit submit. And then, nothing. The government moves at the speed of geology. In the meantime, Brad made good on his threat. I applied for a job at a logistics firm across town. The interview went great. The hiring manager loved me. 2 days later, I got a generic rejection email. I found out later, through a friend of a friend, that they had called Vanguard for a reference check. Brad had told them I was let go for financial impropriety. He accused me of stealing. It was a brilliant, evil move. If I tried to expose him, it would look like I was just trying to cover my own tracks. He had poisoned the well. I couldn't get a job in accounting. I had to take a job as a night shift stalker at a grocery store. Me, a senior analyst, stocking cereal boxes at 2 a.m. while listening to podcasts about fraud. This was the gray rock phase. I had to disappear. I couldn't rant on LinkedIn. I couldn't post vague statuses on Facebook about karma. I had to be boring. I had to be invisible. I wanted Brad to think he had won. I wanted him to think I was crushed, gone, irrelevant. If he thought I was a threat, he might destroy the evidence. If he thought I was broken, he would get sloppy. He would keep spending. So I waited. I stocked cereal. I ate ramen. I watched my savings dwindle to double digits. October came. The leaves changed color. I was tired. Bone tired. I started to doubt myself. Maybe the IRS didn't care about a small-time crook like Brad. Maybe the dossier fell into a black hole. Then came the phone call. It was a Tuesday morning. I was sleeping after my night shift. Unknown number. Washington, D.C. area code. I almost didn't answer. I thought it was a telemarketer. Hello. Is this Selena Vance? Yes. This is Special Agent Harris with the Criminal Investigation Division of the Internal Revenue Service. I'm calling regarding the information you submitted pertaining to Vanguard Logistics. I sat up. My room was dark. The blackout curtains were drawn. Yes, I said. My voice cracked. I submitted it. We've reviewed your exhibits, Agent Harris said. He sounded like a math teacher. Dry. Precise. They are unusually detailed. I'm an accountant, I said. Details are my job. We'd like to meet with you. Not at our office. Do you know the coffee shop on 4th and Main? The one with the back patio. I know it. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Bring the originals of anything you have. I went to that meeting. 2 agents. Suits. No sunglasses. Just thick binders. They bought me a coffee. They didn't ask me emotional questions. They asked me math questions. Explain the coding on this ledger entry. Who had access to the Amex approval portal? Can you verify that this signature belongs to Bradley Thompson? I walked them through it. Line by line. Took 4 hours. At the end, Agent Harris closed his notebook. Thank you, Ms. Vance. You've been very helpful. What happens now? I asked. Now, he said, you go back to your life. You don't tell anyone we spoke. Not your mom. Not your boyfriend. No one. If you tip him off, he shreds the drives. Do you understand? I understand. We'll take it from here. I went back to stocking cereal. Another month passed. November. I was losing hope again. Had they dropped it? Was Brad's dad too powerful? Then came Thanksgiving week. I was at the grocery store but not working. I was shopping for a turkey for my parents. I ran into Sarah, my old coworker. She looked pale. Selena, she whispered, pulling me into the pasta aisle. Oh my God. Hey Sarah, I said. How's work? She stared at me. You don't know. Know what? This morning. It was insane. I was at my desk. Suddenly these black SUVs pulled up to the front glass. Like 6 of them. My heart stopped. Who? Feds, she said. Jackets that said IRFEI. And local police. They came in the front door. They didn't even talk to the receptionist. They went straight to the elevators. I gripped the handle of my shopping cart. Did they go to the 3rd floor? They went straight to Brad's office, she said. Her eyes were wide. Brad was in a meeting with the regional directors. They walked right in. I could hear Brad yelling, "Do you know who I am?" And then, silence. She leaned in closer. They walked him out, Selena. In handcuffs. And his dad too. His dad. For signing the tax returns, she said. They seized the servers. They seized the files. They put yellow tape on the doors. The company is shut down pending an audit. She paused. She looked at me. Really looked at me. They had a map, Selena. One of the agents was holding a stack of papers. I saw the cover sheet on one of the boxes they carried out. It was a printout of an email. Your email. The one asking about the pool. I felt the air rush into my lungs. It wasn't a cheer. It wasn't a jump for joy. It was a release. 1,000 pounds of pressure, vanishing in an instant. Wow, I said. That's crazy. Yeah, Sarah said. Crazy. I bought my turkey. I walked out to my car. I sat in the driver's seat. And then finally I laughed. Not a bitter laugh. A real one. The fallout was spectacular. It was slow-motion car crash spectacular. Because it was a federal raid, it made the news. Local logistics firm raided in tax fraud probe. VP indicted on 14 counts of wire fraud and tax evasion. The details came out in the indictment, which was public record. I read it like it was a romance novel. They found the pool. They found the G Wagon. But they found so much more. They found a shell company in the Caymans. They found that Brad had been taking kickbacks from vendors for years. The total fraud wasn't $450,000. It was $2.1 million. Brad's defense was that it was a clerical error. That he misunderstood the tax code. The judge didn't buy it. Mostly because the prosecutors had my notes. My notes proved intent. They proved that he had been warned. Specifically. In writing. By a qualified accountant. And that he had fired the accountant to cover it up. That's the obstruction of justice charge. That's the one that carries jail time. I didn't have to testify in court. Brad took a plea deal to avoid a 20-year sentence. He got 4 years in federal prison. Restitution of $2.1 million. And a lifetime ban from serving as an officer of a public company. The company Vanguard didn't survive. The reputation damage was too high. They were acquired by a competitor for pennies on the dollar. Most of the staff kept their jobs under the new owners. Except the executive team. They were all cleared out. But here is the best part. The part that actually changed my life. 6 months after the plea deal, I got a letter. Official government stationery. Department of the Treasury. Determination of award. Because the total recovery, including fines, penalties, and interest, was over $5 million, and because my information was the primary basis for the action, I was entitled to the statutory maximum. 30%. I stared at the check. $1,500,000. Minus taxes, of course. I'm an accountant, I know the taxes come out. But still. I sat at my kitchen table in my little apartment. The same table where I had eaten ramen for 3 months. The same table where I had almost signed the NDA for 2 weeks of severance. I deposited the check. I paid off my student loans. That day. I paid off my car. I paid my parents' mortgage off. I didn't buy a G Wagon. I didn't buy a lake house. I bought a small house with a big yard. I built a greenhouse. I started my own consulting firm. Honest Books Accounting. My slogan? We count every bean. I have clients now who hire me specifically because they know I'm the woman who took down Vanguard. They know I don't lie. They know I don't cook the books. Sometimes I look up Brad on the inmate locator. Bradley Thompson. Inmate #48291-004. Release date, 2028. I wonder if he thinks about me. I wonder if he thinks about that day in his office. I wonder if he regrets the laughter. Probably not. Guys like Brad never think they did anything wrong. They just think they got unlucky. But he didn't get unlucky. He got audited. There's a photo on my desk now. It's not a picture of the check. It's not a picture of Brad in handcuffs. It's a picture of the day I opened my own office. My dad is there holding a grand opening ribbon. Miso the cat is sleeping on a brand new ergonomic chair. People ask me if I was scared. Yes, I was terrified. People ask if it was worth it. Every single second. The system is rigged. It is. It's rigged for the guys with the G Wagons and the dads who own the company. They have the money, the lawyers, the power. But they have a weakness. Arrogance. They think we aren't watching. They think we don't understand the numbers. They think we're just the help. But the help sees everything. We see the invoices. We see the trash. We see the timestamps. Brad taught me a valuable lesson. He told me I was obsessive. He meant it as an insult. But he was right. I am obsessive. I'm obsessive about the truth. And that obsession didn't make me hard to work with. It made me a millionaire. So to anyone out there listening who is being told to just sign the paper or look the other way, don't. Keep the receipts. Make the copies. BCC yourself. Because the only thing sweeter than a clear conscience is watching the bad guys realize that you were the one holding the match. Justice isn't given. It's calculated. And the math always wins in the end.